The United Nations top court has just ruled against ordering Germany to halt arms sales to Israel. The case was filed by Nicaragua and accused Germany of failing to prevent genocide in Gaza by continuing to sell arms to Israel. It's the latest case involving Israel before the International Court of Justice. South Africa approached the court in December accusing Israel of committing genocide.
By 15 votes to 1, find that the circumstances, as they now present themselves to the court, are not such as to require the exercise of its power under Article 41 of the statute to indicate provisional measures.
Let's go live to Al Jazeera's Willem Marks, who's at The Hague for us. So, Willem, tell us more about what the court said today to explain their decision not to issue provisional measures.
Well, Folly, there were two specific issues. One was very much factual. Let's start with that. They accepted the statements made by the German legal team that since October the 7th, not only has there been a massive reduction in the value of their military-related transfers to Israel, but the vast majority, around 98% of the value of all those transfers was for non-lethal material. They acknowledged there had been 300 anti-tank missiles sold from Germany into Israel. They said that, therefore, there was not a huge amount of indication that German support for the Israeli military was helping that Israeli military operate inside Gaza. Secondarily, they pointed out that given the claim from Nicaragua was that Germany was in violation of the Genocide Convention, the court has previously itself not yet ruled that Israel is violating that convention, and therefore there was no legal standing right now for them to issue these so-called provisional measures against Germany, because Germany itself is not seen to be supporting a state that is itself in violation of the convention. That was essentially the two key acceptances and part of that ruling from the court today.
And what has Nicaragua said following this ruling? What is going to be their next step now?
So their agent ambassador has come out here to speak just a few minutes ago in front of the court. It's important to note that Germany had sought for this case to essentially be dismissed at this point. That would normally only happen, the court said, were there questions around jurisdiction. There are no such questions around jurisdiction, so they said that the case would continue. And Carlos Jose Aguelo Gomez, the agent ambassador for Nicaragua, spoke to us just a few moments ago to the press pack gathered out here, saying the case will continue despite the ICJ ruling against the emergency request. The ruling doesn't mean, he said, that Germany did not violate international rules. And of course, this could go on, Folly, for many, many years henceforth.
Willem, thank you very much. Willem Marks live there at The Hague. Let's get reaction now from Berlin and speak to Al Jazeera's Dominic Kane. What's the reaction of the German government following this ruling, Dominic?
Well, fully, the Auswärtiges Amt, the Foreign Office, has rather quickly reacted, putting out a statement on social media. It's in German, but I'll paraphrase it, saying, "Nobody is above the law. That informs the way we carry out our policies. We welcome today's judgment by the International Court. Germany is not party to the conflict in the Middle East. On the contrary, we are working day and night for a two-state solution. We are a provider of large amounts of humanitarian help to the Palestinians. We are working as far as possible to make sure that help gets to people in Gaza." And the final part of it, they say, this is the Foreign Ministry, German Foreign Ministry says, "We also see, however," in their words, "the terror of the 7th of October is what caused the spiral of suffering that has been triggered, against which Israel must defend itself. And we note that there are still more than 100 hostages in the hands of Hamas, who, in their words, they say are being used as or misused as human shields." That reaction from the German Foreign Ministry in the course of the last 20 minutes or so. And it shows that the government here is happy that part of the case has gone in their favour, but clearly they wanted, as Willem was saying, the case to be thrown out, and that has not happened. So, as it were, two cheers, metaphorically, from the German government insofar as this judgment is concerned.
Thank you, Dominic, for that. Dominic Kane with the reaction there from Berlin. Let's explore all this further now with Motaz Al-Figueri, who heads the Human Rights Program at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. Thank you once again for being with us. So as we heard there,
yes.
The court said no legal standing to issue provisional measures against Germany, but it is not the end of the case, as we've heard. What happens next?
Yes, this is not the end of the case. This is just a decision regarding the provisional measures requested by Nicaragua as they stand right now. But it sends a message also to Germany that in the future, because after reading the text, in the future, if Germany decide to provide weapons that are directly used in the violation, Nicaragua can again, by the way, request a new
more provisional measures.
Yes,
okay.
As it happened in South Africa versus Israel. You remember in the case, there was provisional measures in January, then another provisional measures in March. So the point here, in the conclusion of the decision of today, the court said directly, the court considered it particularly important to remind all states of their international obligation relating to the transfer of arms to parties of an armed conflict. So it reminds that Germany is under obligation not to provide arms that could be used in violation.
Okay. Now, what about the implications then for other countries that provide support, military support to Israel, but also what it means for countries who might, not just Nicaragua, but as we saw South Africa or others, who might want to bring a case against Israel's supporters to the International Court of Justice, because the issue here was that there wasn't sufficient evidence to issue these provisional measures, right?
Yes.
So what
Any
does it mean for
case
these
in
countries?
the future should provide sufficient and substantial evidence that there is ongoing cooperation and military export that is used in violation of international humanitarian law and international human rights law. In provisional measure, you don't talk about the past. You are talking about something ongoing, and there is imminent risk that the threat will continue. Today, the court did not find that, and it was convinced of what Germany presented, because Germany also argued that it has system to monitor, and it is that Germany is complied also or bound by EU law in arm export. So any case should provide evidence that there are ongoing export, and these export are used directly in the violation of Geneva Convention or the Convention on Genocide.
Okay, so it's a lesson for other countries that might want to bring a case.
But also, just to conclude, I think what's happening now is that Gaza launched a long-term legal mobilization. It is not the end of the story. We can also witness domestic litigation in Germany, in Canada, inside countries that provide, because people can also file cases in domestic court.
Okay, very interesting. This was a legal victory, perhaps, for Germany, but not a political one.
I don't consider it political legal victory because there are no provisional measures.
For now,
but I don't consider it that victory because also in the conclusion of the text of the decision today, the court reminds Germany of its obligation and remind the international community and state parties of the Geneva Convention on International Material Law of their obligation not to provide weapons that are used in violation of the Geneva Convention. So this lays the ground for future litigation. It is possible, of course.
Do you expect that there could be other cases? You mentioned the local cases. That's a possibility. But at the International Court of Justice, do you expect that other countries could
other countries, of course, can take the step. We need to remember that Nicaragua and Colombia intervened in support of South Africa in its case against Israel. So right now, the ICJ already handled 3 cases related to Palestine in general. One, the advisory opinion that it opens the request of the General Assembly to discuss the legal consequences of the occupation. The second one, South Africa versus Israel. And the third one, Nicaragua and Germany, because the court will decide on the merits. So there's still other phases for this case. It has not ended. It will take some time.
Thank you very much, Motaz, for your insight. As always, very good to get your expertise. Motaz Al-Figueri from the Doha Institute of Graduate Studies.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get latest news from Al Jazeera.